Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture of this special series of SBI Clerk Mains 2020 exam. Today we are going to take a very interesting topic. What is it? As you can see on the screen, it is critical reasoning, abbreviated as CR. Now, why interesting? Because in CR, I get two kinds of responses. Either it evokes doubt, fear, negative responses like doubt, fear, or it evokes positive responses like curiosity and light in your eyes when you see questions of CR. Two extremes, right? One positive extreme, one negative extreme. Now, obviously, one extreme, that is the positive extreme, should be there. But should we have, or should any one of us be in an emotional state of the negative extreme when we encounter CR question is something that we are going to see today. And by the end of this lecture, I intend to break that negative biasness towards these kind of questions for those students who have that biasness, right? So that is the main agenda of today's lecture. And for those who already have a positive bias towards these questions, they would thoroughly enjoy doing all the questions here, right? Okay, so with this agenda in our mind, let's also look at what are the specific things that we are going to do today. The first specific thing is that we are going to understand how to solve each type of questions of critical reasoning. So critical reasoning is one broad type of questions. There are several different types of questions inside critical reasoning is also. There are conclusion questions, assumption questions, strengthening of argument question, weakening of argument question, course of action questions. So many different varieties of questions. So how do we approach each one of these variety? What would be the changes that is required from us while we are approaching these different types of questions? Okay. Now, how do we do that? We would be doing that by solving questions, one from each one of these type. And while we will be solving the questions, I'll also be telling you the way you should think in these particular question or in these type of particular questions. Now, what you are supposed to do at that point of time while I am explaining the question and giving you the background theory of that question, write those things in your own words. Whatever you have understood from how to approach those questions, write it in your own words. They would help you to revise it later on. Okay, right. The questions that I have taken, some of them are from OB SBI Clerk Mains Mock 1, right? And because in that particular mock set, all the types of questions were not given, therefore, I created some questions for you so that I can also give you a glimpse of different kinds of questions that can come in exam from this particular area. Normally, there are 6 to 7 questions that comes in the reasoning section from this particular area, and you can understand from that if we are able to do these questions correctly, that would be a very good push to our score, right? Okay. Also, by the end of today's lecture, we will also look at the time that we should have taken to do each one of these questions. So that would give us an idea that how much time we should have taken to do all the questions of CR. Okay, right? Okay, so let's dive in. Let's see these interesting kinds of questions and how do we approach while solving these questions. The first question on your screen now. Read the statement carefully and answer the question. You'll have to assume what has been stated in the statement to be true, even if it is in variance to common knowledge. Okay, so give 1 minute of time and do this question. Done? Okay, now let me do this and see whether your and my approach matches, or you have done it in a better way, or you can improve your way of solving. Okay, let's see. Joining gym and following a strict diet regime has helped 50 women to lose their respective weight. Just like we did in reading comprehension, remember that we will identify the important things that has been said in the passage or in the sentence. That is the same thing that we are going to do in here. So here joining gym and strict diet regime, two things, has helped 50 women to lose their respective weight. Thus all overweight women should join gym and follow a strict diet regime. This last line is a conclusion, right, based on the data that has been given in here. This is what? This is fact. The fact that has been given, joining gym and following a strict diet regime has helped 50 women to lose their respective weight. So from this fact, they are concluding, or the author is concluding, that all overweight women should join gym and follow a strict diet regime. Okay. The conclusion in the above argument is based on which of the following assumptions. So this is an assumption question. What kind of question is this? Assumption. Now before solving this question, I'll solve this question for you, but before solving this question, let me tell you about something about assumption. What is assumption? Remember, assumption is what author of this particular paragraph or statement has assumed to come to this conclusion, right? Okay, there is a very big misunderstanding in the minds of students that assumption means my assumption, your assumption. No. Assumption means author's assumption, which essentially means that what the author must have thought about this particular thing at the back of his mind. He has not stated it. He has just thought about it at the back of his mind, and therefore he has come out with this conclusion. Okay. So basically, if you look at it that way, assumption is the base on which the conclusion of the author stands. Okay, it is the base on which the conclusion stands. Okay, what would happen if I change the base, if I topple the base of anything, base of a building, base of a house of cards? If I go and topple the base of the house of cards, what would happen? The house of cards would collapse. Why house of cards? If I go and explode the base of a building, the building would also collapse. So assumption is something which, if is changed, the author's lookout towards that particular issue would also change. Okay, right? Okay. So this is what assumption. I'll give you a very simple example so that you can associate, and then we'll do the question. But after that, so this is the general part where I tell you about the theory, and then I would move to the specific part of giving you the answer to the question by solving it. Right. So this theory parts, whatever and however you understand, make notes of it. Okay. So one thing is, assumption is the base of the argument. Now, for example, there are a lot of people even in today's age. Let's say, let's eliminate today's age. 100 years back, there were people who believed that women should be in homes. That was their assumption. So therefore, any activity that required women to go out and earn money was looked down upon by the people, by those kinds of people, right? Why? Because they had an assumption that, flawed, but they had an assumption that women's role is in the house. Okay, so they shouldn't be earning money. So if some women went out and earned money, they were looked down upon by these people. So their actions, their conclusions were determined by the assumption that they had at the back of their mind, right? Okay, so this is what assumption. Assumption determines how we will act in some cases. Similarly, the Jews and the Nazis used to believe that Jews are less human, right? And therefore, if we kill them, it's not a crime. And that ended up in the action of the Holocaust, right? So that was the assumption. The Jews were not as human as the Germans. So these are the assumptions, and if you have wrong assumptions, your whole decision matrix changes. Okay. Now, coming back to this question now. So what is the assumption in this case? We know that these are the this is the data that has been given, that doing 1 and 2, 50 women had lost weight. So all overweight women should join gym and follow a strict diet regime. So let's see the options. Joining gym is the only way to reduce weight. This talks about joining gym. This does not talk anything about strict diet regime. So incomplete, eliminated. Following a strict diet regime is surely going to lead to weight loss. Same reason. The reason why I eliminated A, I will eliminate B also. Joining gym and following strict diet regime would result in weight loss for all. Now, here I would, what do I do? See, here they have used both of them. But now let us look at the sentence. The sentence talks about, it concludes about overweight women and not everyone. Right? Okay. So when I say that thus all overweight women should join gym and follow a strict diet regime, now this assumption is not necessary for the author, that joining gym and following strict diet regime would result in weight loss for all. This particular assumption is not necessary. Right, but you couldn't understand because you see both of these things are there. Earlier we eliminated A and B on the basis that it did not have following strict diet and it did not have joining gym. So here we have both of it. So we might be confused. So what I would suggest here, don't read the option again and again or the sentence again and again. Just keep it open and go through the other options. If you get a better option, you would mark that. That's the way you should approach your questions in competitive exam. A lot of time, my dear friends, we waste time in competitive exams to try and convince ourselves on a particular option. Rather than going through all the option, we are half sure about one option and we try and convince ourselves why this should be the answer by rationalizing it. Please don't do that. That's a waste of time and mostly it gives you wrong answer. Okay? Right? Don't rationalize. Go through all the option, try and eliminate option and answer the question. Bas, that's it. Women need to take this program seriously, irrelevant. All overweight women want to reduce weight. Now, what did I say? That if I negate the base, if I, destroy the base, the argument would also be destroyed. So, here we have two options, option C and option E. Let us negate each one of them. If I say that joining gym and following strict diet is not, will not result in weight loss for all, then also the author can come out with this conclusion because it does for overweight women. Even if it is not for all, if it does for overweight women, he can come. Right. So, negating this does not negate the conclusion. But come and negate this one, negate this base, negate this option. All overweight women want to reduce weight. If I negate it, overweight women do not want to reduce weight. If they do not want to reduce weight, then why should they join gym? This is not desired. If it is not desired, why would they do it? Right? See, if you negate it, then your whole argument falls apart. Right? So this is one way of solving it, by negating the options that couldn't have been eliminated. Now, the second way of doing it is by understanding and bridging the gap, the link. See, here it says all overweight women should join gym. So, the author is obviously assuming that overweight women want to lose weight. Then only if I go to a doctor and I tell them about my problems, then the doctor would assume that I want to have a solution to my problem. That's a basic assumption. If that's not an assumption, I wouldn't have gone to the doctor, or I wouldn't listen to the doctor anyways, right? Okay, same case here also. So you can do this question through understanding, you can do this question through negating. Both would do, and the answer in this case is E. Clear? Okay, chalo, next question. This was an assumption question. The next question here, it is a kind of conclusion question. Take your time and do it. Done? Okay, let's see. The cost of purchasing crude iron from industry X is almost 20% more than the cost of purchasing crude iron from industry Z. So basically what he is saying, that cost of crude iron from X is equal to cost of crude iron from Z plus 20% of the cost of Z, right? So this is the extra. 20% of the cost of Z from the industry Z is added, and that makes cost of buying crude iron from X. It is cheaper to purchase crude iron from industry Z even after taxes and transportation fees are added and have them transported than to purchase crude iron directly from industry X. So what does this mean? That crude iron from X is more, cost of crude iron from X is more, this means cost is more even if I add taxes and transportation to the cost of crude iron from Z, right? Still it is more. Both the industry sources iron from a nearby mine. Okay, so both are similar in terms of their cost. Which of the following can be correctly inferred from the sentence above? So basically we'll have to go through the option and see. We have these two equations, and these two equations would help us to answer. Industry X inflates their prices to be more competitive than industry Z. See, if more competitive means it is easy to buy. Now, if you want to make price competitive, you will reduce the price and not increase the price. Okay, right? So therefore, this gets eliminated anyways by the inherent lack of logical consistency in it. But even if you want to look at it from the perspective of a simple option, then also it can be eliminated, because it says that industry X inflates their price. So if it is inflating the price or not, how do we know that? We need more data for that, whether industry X inflates their price or it is their problem which results in more cost for them, and therefore their price is also increased. Okay. So A is eliminated in both the aspects. It takes less time for industry Z to mine crude iron. Again the same thing. We need more data to infer A and B. We do not have any data to infer this. The cost of transporting crude iron from industry Z is less than 20% of the cost of purchasing crude iron from industry X. Okay, now let's see here. What does it, what is it saying? That if the cost of transporting crude iron from industry Z, that is this one, is less than 20% of the cost. You see, we know that cost of iron from X is equal to cost of iron from Z plus 20%. Here we are seeing almost equal to. Here we are seeing that after addition of tax and transportation also, the cost of iron from X is more. That means definitely this part, tax and transportation, is less than this part. Tax and transportation is definitely less than this part. Okay, right? Acha. If it is tax plus transportation, tax and transportation, if it is definitely less than 20% of crude iron from Z, the cost of crude iron from Z, it is also going to be definitely less than cost of crude iron from X. And what does the option say? Cost of transporting crude iron, not only tax and transport, not only transport, even tax and transport together is less than 20% of the cost of purchasing crude iron from industry X. Yes, definitely we can say so, because 20% of crude iron cost from Z is less than 20% of cost from X, and tax and transport together is less than 20% of cost from Z. So therefore definitely we can infer that. So this is a proper conclusion kind of question. This is definitely yes. I'll go through the other option, but you don't need to. Labor cost at industry Z are less than the labor cost at industry X, irrelevant, we need more data. Taxes on crude iron from industry Z are more than 20% of the cost. No, it cannot be more, because if it had been more, then this formula would not have come. Clear? So this is eliminated. So only C can be the answer. Your answer is C. Understood? Such a beautiful question. Huh? You could have done it through making these formulas or equations, or you might not have done it through equation. Just by understanding it, you could have done it, because if you had understood it, what would have been that cost of iron from X is more by 20% of cost of iron by Z. Okay, at least more by 20%. So therefore, if I say that cost of iron from X is more than cost of iron from Z, then it would not be wrong. Okay, then we add to cost of iron from Z tax and transportation. Still, after adding also cost of iron from Z X is more than cost of iron from Z. Okay, so that means the tax and transportation together also could not be equal to 20% of cost of iron from Z. That's the flow of logic. So if together they are not equal to 20% of cost of Z, then how can they be 20% of cost of X? They would be lesser than that. So transportation is definitely lesser than cost of 20% of X. Okay, so that ways you could have answered. Clear? Okay, next question. In a study, 100 people in an experimental group were injected with serum super. This is my favorite question of today. I thought a lot about what to give you a question in strengthening, and thought that you guys are in a lot of stress nowadays because the exams are coming near and you have so much to do. So I thought, let's have some superhero questions so that it can instill in you those superhero like qualities, and thereby I created these questions, this question for you. So let's see, let's enjoy this question. In a study of 100 people in an experimental group were injected with serum super, while 100 people in a control group were injected with a placebo. Placebo means something which there is no medicine in it. It's not going to have any effect on the control group. Within 2 weeks, 40% of the experimental group had developed superpowers. Oh, therefore, superpowers must be caused by some substance similar to the substance found in serum super. So, what is the data? This is the conclusion, guys. So, what's the kind of question this is? The argument above is strengthened by which of the following? So, the last to last question was assumption, the last question was conclusion. In conclusion, what did we do? We analyze the paragraph fully, and from the fact only we can infer. We cannot go beyond the scope of the passage to infer. In the last question, we saw that. In this question, they have asked to strengthen the argument of the author. So, first of all, argument is made by facts, premise, and based on this fact and premise, the conclusion the author derives from it. Okay? This is full argument. This is the full argument. So, for that, we will have to first see that what the conclusion of the author is in here. Conclusion of the author is superpower must be caused by some substance similar to the substance found in serum super. So, serum super must have some substance that gives superpower. And on what basis does he do so? This is the fact. These are the two facts. The first fact is that 100 people have been given serum super, and 40% of these 100 people developed superpowers. These are the two facts. On the basis of it, he infers that if superpowers must be caused by the substance that is there in serum super or similar to that. Okay. So, how do we strengthen? If we give a data or a premise that makes it more stronger, that yes, substance similar to what there was in serum super gives superpowers, then it would be a strengthening of argument. Okay, so let's go through the options. Normal probability of people acquiring superpowers is 0.0001%. Okay, so this shows the very low incidence of people getting superpower. And here, after having serum super, we are having 40% of the group getting superpower. So there is a gap, right? So this gap might be due to serum super. The gap might be due to serum super. So I'll keep this. I'll keep this. If I don't get a better one, I'll go with it. But this, but this still does not answer the strengthening of this particular part, but still I'll keep it because it goes with the logic. 40% of the people in the control group has also gained superpower. Oh, this is weakening the argument. If 40% of the control group has also got superpower, that means serum super had nothing to do with it, right? It was either something which was outside serum super or something, nothing at all. So this weakens. So this cannot be the answer. Serum super contains substance extracted from the blood of superheroes. So this can be a reason why serum super gives superpower ability. This can be a reason. Can it strengthen the argument that substances similar to what has in serum super are found in the superpower or gives superpower? Might not be. Right, between A and C, A still seems to be a better option than C, but still you can keep it. The blood of superheroes always contains a high level of certain substance found in serum super. Now see this. Between C and D, D is definitely better because this clarifies each and every doubt. If superheroes always have in their blood certain substance which is there in serum super, then this might be the reason why those people have got 40% of that group has got superpower. So between C and D, obviously D, and even between A and D, the normal probability of acquiring superpower is 0.001%, and say after serum super you get 40% people. Okay, that sort of gives you an idea that maybe A strengthens the argument. But here we are not only talking about strengthens the argument, we are talking about strengthens the argument most. Now D clearly states that all superheroes have in their blood substance similar to what you have in serum super. So if that is the case, then this conclusion is strengthened most, because this is more or less giving a premise on which the author can state this, right? So between A and D, D is better. Last one. Nearly all people in experimental group contacted high fever within 48 hours. That is irrelevant. That is irrelevant. So only D can be the answer. Okay, right? So enjoyed this question? Was an interesting question. Hope in future we also get some serum super and become superpower. But up till that, you already have your serum super inside yourself, and that is in your mind, in your brain. Okay, and that serum is capable of creating huge amounts of superpower inside you. Let me tell you. So if you can activate that, and you can activate that serum whose name is confidence, then you would see you are not less than superpower in any way. Okay, right? Chalo, let's move on to the next question. The next question is a question of weakening of argument. Okay, question of weakening of argument. We have done assumption, conclusion, strengthening of argument. Now we will do weakening of argument. Read it and do it. Done? Let us see. In order to determine automobile insurance premiums for a driver, insurance companies calculate various risk factors. As the risk factors increase, so does the premium. This is one premise that has been said, that insurance companies calculate risk, and as risk factors increase, premium also increases. Certain factors such as the driver's age, past accident history, so driver's age, past accident history play an important role in these calculations. So, in risk factors, driver's age and past accident history are there. Yet, the premium should also increase with the frequency with which the person drives. So, author thinks that frequency should also be a parameter on which risk factors should be evaluated. After all, a person's chance of being involved in a mishap increases in the proportion to the number of times that person drives. Okay, so the number of times you drive, the more the risk to be in an accident, right? So this is author's opinion that the number of times or the frequency in which the driver drives his car should also be included in the risk assessment apart from driver's age and past accident history, and based on it premium should be increased. Okay. The argument above is undermined, means weakened most by which of the following? So let us see. People who drive frequently are more likely to become distracted while driving than are people who drive infrequently. Okay, so this is supporting the argument, na? Right? Always make a mental map, just like we did in RC. Here also a mind map would help. Here a mind map would be in your mind like this: risk factor increasing and premium should also increase. Risk factor has driver's age and accident history. Okay, but author thinks risk factor should also have frequency of driving. Okay, right? Now, and here if we see the first one, people who drive frequently will become more distracted while driving than who drive infrequently. So then this means that they would have more accident and therefore the premium should be high, right? Because if the risk is high, then the premium should be high is already given as a premise here. Okay? Now, so this is supporting, so eliminated. People who drive frequently are more likely to make long distance trips in the course of a year than are people who drive infrequently. So their risk increases or not has not been said, because we do not know whether long distance trips increases the risk or not. So this is irrelevant, we will eliminate it. People who drive infrequently are lesser likely to follow rules for safe driving than are people who drive frequently. Now see, there is a data or a fact that says something opposite to the argument's stand. Argument is standing on the fact that risk of driving frequently is higher than risk of driving infrequently. But look at C. It says those who are infrequent drivers do not follow rules. They follow less rules than those who drive frequently. So then, my dear friends, what happens? These people have, infrequent drivers also have high incidence of risk. Yes or no? Right? So then the author's argument that frequent drivers drive more and therefore risk is high is also replaced by infrequent drivers are less safe drivers and therefore their risk is also high. So if the risk of these is high and therefore premium should be adjusted accordingly, then according to C, the risk of infrequent driver is also high for a different reason and their premium should also be adjusted accordingly. So just on the basis of frequency, now we are not sure who has more risk. Then we will have to have data that whether not following rules is more risky or driving more is more risky, right? So this creates a doubt on author's argument. So this weakens our argument. Got it? Right? Now, I'll go through D and E. People who drive infrequently are less likely to violate. Again, this supports and therefore eliminated. People who drive infrequently are more likely to be involved in accidents that occur on small roads than in highway accidents. What is this? This is irrelevant. Right. So there is no comparison between infrequency and frequency here that we can make through E. Therefore, E is eliminated. Hence, C is the answer. Which is the answer? C is the answer. Clear? Chala. Now, the next question. This question is of course of action. So read the instruction and do the question. Done? Let's do it now. In the questions below, few statements are given depicting an issue or a problem. You have to assume everything in the statements to be true, and on the basis of the information given in the statements, answer the question that follows. So, what's the statement? 76 whales died or were injured after becoming entangled in fishing gear and other ropes and cables off the coast in 2017. In several of those cases, the sources of nets and lines entangling the large animals were commercial trap fisheries. So, there were 76 whales which were injured or which died because they got entangled in the nets of commercial trap fisheries, right? That's the idea. Which of the following can be course of action by the authority to stop deaths and injuries of the whales due to entanglement? Now, it's a very specific question. This is the problem. This is the problem statement. So, whales are dying due to entanglement in commercial trap fisheries net. What can be done for that? So, this is the problem. We need a solution for this specific problem. Anyone who encounters an entangled whale should contact a local hotline or the Coast Guard. So, competent authorities should be contacted. So, remember always for course of action, what kind of actions can come? So, one is the immediate action, reactive action, the action that comes as a reaction to that particular problem to give immediate relief. The second is the proactive action, which is a plan to do something which would negate the necessity of this particular problem. So, if that problem does not exist, you will not be required to be reactive later on. Okay, simple, if there is flood, giving flood relief is reactive action. If there is flood, having a dam to control the water is proactive action because in the long term. Okay. Now, a lot of students here get confused by the fact that anything that seems to be solving the problem even by ways which might not be good also come in their mind as course of action. But that should not be the case. Right? Some actions can be taken, some actions cannot be taken. How do we know? First of all, always remember, anything, any type of action, if it is not undemocratic, right, if it is against freedom of human, okay, then it is not taken to be a course of action until and unless the problem is something like where it is necessary. Okay, until and unless the problem, the context of the problem is where it is necessary to have such kind of step. Okay? So, this is something that you should remember. Now, coming back to the options. Anyone who encounters an entangled whale should contact a local hotline. So, would this solve the problem on an immediate basis? Yes, it would solve the problem on an immediate basis. The authorities would come and rescue that whale. People should stop eating seafood which would stop nets or ropes and set up catch fish and other sea creatures. Now, this is one of those examples where students make mistake. Apparently, this would solve the problem, whale would not get caught in net. But when we have a very specific problem of commercial trap fisheries, trapping by mistake whales, this is too general an action to be taken. Secondly, this is also infringing into the freedom of other people's food habits. This is infringing into the food habits of other people. Now, here a lot of people get biased. See, if I am vegetarian, I can get biased by the fact that, okay, what is there? We should stop eating this stuff and then the animals would be saved. But no, we cannot decide on the basis of our biases. We will have to only take care of the data that has been given, and on the basis of that data whether we are able to solve it or not. Now, on the basis of the data that has been given, this is not a solution because it infringes into the freedom, and secondly, it is too general. In some places there are these things are happening, and for that you are saying that everywhere you should stop eating seafood, right? So this is an irrelevant course of action. So only one should be our course of action. A. Clear? Okay? Next. Do this question. Done? In the question below, a statement is provided followed by three situations which may or may not depict the reason for the given statement. Read the passage and answer the question that follows. In 2009, an organization developed a way to recycle half-used bars of soap left at hotels into new sterile ones, which can then be donated to children and families around the world who don't have easy access to soap. Which of the following can be a possible reason for the organization to donate soap to people? This is a reverse COA problem, reverse course of action kind of problem. So here what has been asked, that this is the action taken by the organization. What might be the reason for this? So anything that can result in this kind of action would be our answer. So let's see. So what kind of question, what kind of answers we can have? Any use of those recycled soap? Okay, use of those recycled soap, or any benefit that comes to the organization or environment for that. Okay, let's see. Diseases like pneumonia and diarrhea can be prevented by hand washing with soaps, and giving soaps to people who do not have soap would prevent these diseases for them, right? So it makes sense. This is a cause which can elicit such an action. So I'll keep one. So it would be either one, this, it can be any one of these now. Achha, let's read 2. With huge amounts of soap left over at hotel, recycling them generated huge profits for the organization. We are donating. How can we get profit from donation? This is irrelevant. Recycling big amounts of hotel waste consisting of half-used toiletries has kept it away from polluting landfills. Benefit to the environment. Benefit to the environment, I just talked about benefit to the organization or environment. So that can also be a reason. So this is also a valid reason to do it. So both 1 and 3. So your answer should be B. Clear? Such a simple question. If you know what to do and how to do, you would be able to answer it within 30-40 seconds. Right? See, the first 4 questions would have taken a little more time. The questions that we are doing after the first 4 questions would take less time. Okay, now let's look at this question now. Do this. Done. So what is this kind of question? This is called cause-effect question. This is called what? Cause-effect question. Instead of simply tossing them in trash, shredding credit card statement is a better way to get rid of them after they are no longer needed. So the author is saying that this action should be taken. Okay. Dumpster divers are found to steal credit card statements and use the information to make authorized charges on people's account to steal their identity. If your statement goes as a whole statement to your, to someone who can misuse it, then they can steal your identity or make authorized transactions. Okay, right. So, and here the author gives a reason, or rather the question maker gives a reason. The dumpster divers is, dump is your kachra. Okay, so that the people who glean through the dump, they are known to have those credit card statements, and they give it to someone who can make the transactions or authorized transactions. So that's a type of stealing. So if this happens, should we not take this action or not? Tell me. If let's make it simplified. Let's make it very simplified. If my data can be stolen, should I keep it secure or not? Yes, I should keep it secure. So data can be stolen is said here, so that can be the cause, and making it secure by shredding credit card statements. If I shred credit card statements, they would not get my full statement, they would not get any detail, right? Shredding is to tear it into pieces and pieces. So and then what will happen is that this is a course of action that can be taken to have against this kind of causes, right? So therefore this is a cause effect pair. Now you might ask me, sir, here it seems to be like a course of action, and you said also yes. So can effect be course of action? Yes, effect can be course of action too. So effect can be two things. One, it can be correlated event that comes after the cause. Okay, rather than correlated event, let me tell it, effect can be something of a in chronological way, it can be something which comes after the cause, or it can be the solution to the cause. Both would be treated as effect. Chronologically occurring events are also effect, solution to the cause are also effect. Here it was solution to the cause. Okay? Chalo, let's go on to the next question. This is an FIJ question, fact, inference, judgment question. Let's do it. Done. So what does the instruction say? A set of 4 sequentially ordered statements has been given. Each can be classified as facts, inference or judgment. Facts is what? Which deals with pieces of information that one has heard, seen or read, which are open to discovery or verification. This is very important. So what is fact? Fact is something which can be verified. Okay. So for example, anything that has been written somewhere, in this particular newspaper report, this has been said. Can it be verified? Yes, it can be verified. Go pick up that newspaper and see whether it has been written in there. So if I say that poverty would go away by 2025, okay. So can this be verified? No, this cannot be verified. So this is something of a judgment of mine. This is my opinion that poverty would go away. On the basis of what I think, I said poverty would go away. So this is judgment. But at the same time, I say that it was written in Times of India today's edition that poverty would go away by 2025. Then it becomes a fact, because you can go and verify in Times of India. So you understood what is fact and what is judgment. Judgment is opinion, which would change. Opinions, how do I identify opinions? Opinions change from person to person, or has an ability to change from person to person. So you might think poverty would not go away, I might think poverty would go away. You might think that X is handsome, I might think that X is not handsome. So these are judgments. X is handsome, judgment. Poverty would go away, judgment. Okay. So because this can change from person to person. Inference, which are conclusion drawn about unknown on the basis of known. So if there is a basis on which you are concluding something, there is a relation, there is an adequate relation on the basis of which you can conclude something, then it is an inference. Okay, right. A lot of people get confused between inference and judgment, and obviously so, because you might not understand whether the data that has been given is enough to draw this inference or not. So for that you would need practice. But let me show you how would you do this question. Given the poor quality of service in the public sector, the HIV affected should be switching to private initiatives that supply antiretroviral drugs at a low cost. Now see, here data has been given, a fact has been given. So given the poor quality of service in the public sector. Now, but after that, this part, is it, together A is an inference or a judgment? This is not fact, we know that, because here course of action has been said. Now see, this part, can it change from person to person? Yes, it can change. I can say that given the poor quality of service in the public sector, government should look in improvising it. So the same set of fact can lead to different opinion about what should people do or what should government do, right? Okay. So this, though looks like an inference, this is a judgment. And if this is a judgment, then I know that my answer can be this, this or this, right? Okay, here if you had looked at the option, you would have already known that there was no option as inference as the first. So that option was anyways not there, and we know for sure that it cannot be a fact. Secondly, words like should and adjectives like very good, beautiful, these are some things that are the trademark for judgment. Normally, judgments have these kind of stuff. Normally, it's not always. Then, since 2004, the government has been supplying free drugs and many have benefited as per the reports. As per the reports. If this had not been there, then it wouldn't have been a fact. But this is a fact because the author is quoting a report according to that report. So this is surely a fact. So this is eliminated. From C, D and E is eliminated. Now I have C and D. So either I check the third one or the fourth one because both are different. So identifying between fact and judgment is always easy. So let's do it rather than identifying between judgment and inference. But how heartbreaking it is that we should face a perennial shortage of drugs when India is one of the largest supplier of generic drugs to the developing world. How heartbreaking, adjectives used, and adjectives used in a way that it is author's opinion that it is heartbreaking. Some people might not find it heartbreaking, right? So this is definitely judgment. So D is definitely judgment. So our answer should be D. Our answer should be D. Now you can read this one. Initiatives like AIDS Care Network may lead to availability of such rare and needed drugs. Now, there is a possibility of a good action creating good result. This is what? This is inference, right? May lead to, right? This is a sort of inference. So the whole thing fits in. You don't need to do the C1 if you have done the D1 first. I am just showing you so that you understand. Okay? The last question of today. Done? In the question given below, there is a question asked followed by two alternatives. Read carefully and answer based on the strength of the argument. So what is it? This is a strong and weak argument kind of question. So a problem has been given and I'll have to look at this reason, and based on this reason, whether it is relevant and adequate, based on these two things, we will check and see whether we should take this action or not. Okay, so what is the flow? Read the question, read the reason, and then think whether yes, it is justified for a yes or no. Okay, chalo. Should publishing data on coronavirus spread and impact be stopped? So, should publishing data on coronavirus be stopped? If it will reduce fear in the minds of people, yes, it should be stopped. Now, is it relevant? Yes, it is related to coronavirus. Okay. Is it adequate or is it desirable? Adequate also has desirable. Is it desirable? Reducing fear in minds of people, is it good or bad? We do not know from the basis of the data that has been given. So this is inadequate. So I cannot base my decision whether I should stop publishing data on or not just on the basis of this part or this logic, because it is inadequate. It is relevant, but it is inadequate. Okay? Right now, if it will make people careless and subsequently increase the spread, relevant? Yes, definitely. Talks about the virus spread. Adequate? Yes, it's also adequate. If a negative event or negative effect would happen if I do that action. So when do I not do an action? So this is an action. When will I not do this? If doing this results in negatives, then I should not do this. This is a negative. This is a negative and an adequate negative. So therefore, should I stop publishing data? No, I should not stop publishing data. Okay. And when do I do an action? When doing that gives us positive. Okay. Right. Here, why did we not answer 1? Because we did not know whether reducing fear of virus was a positive or not. It was inadequate. We did not have more data. Right? Therefore, only 2 is the answer. Got the point? Got the point? How should we approach these kind of questions? So, only 2 is the strong argument. Strong argument for making the decision of no. Take, see, these were all the questions of critical reasoning. What did you find? Were they not interesting? Were they not questions that picks your curiosity, that makes you think, okay, let's think about the question in the language terms, in the logic terms, with the reasoning hat on, right? And when you do that, you also become better at reading comprehensions too. So critical reasoning and reading comprehension are inherently linked. Today you have only 2-3 days for clerk mains, but later on for IBPS PO mains or for other upcoming exams, you should work on your critical reasoning, because that's also going to help you in your reading comprehension too. Right? Okay. So that was critical reasoning. And look at this. Now let's discuss the time and score. Normally in a paper you get around 7 to 8 questions on critical reasoning. And if you see, if these are the kinds of 7 to 8 questions, so the first 4 questions would have taken around 50 seconds to 1 minute. Okay. But the next 5 questions would have taken 40 seconds on an average, right? So if you had taken 4 minutes for the first 4 questions, for the next 4 questions you would have taken around 2.5 to 3 minutes, let's say 3 minutes. So 8 questions you would have been done within 6 to 7 minutes. So 7 to 8 questions, 6 to 7 minutes. And even if you had got 2 wrong, then also you would have got a score of 5 to 6 marks. In SBI clerk mains, the marks would be more, because in reasoning there are more marks to each question, right? So there you would get more marks, obviously. But in other papers where 1 marks are allotted to each question of reasoning, there also you would get at least 5 or 6 marks. So it's possible. But yes, you will have to have a clear thought process. Read the paragraph, identify the facts, premise and conclusion, right? It's like a mini mind map. And then based on that mini mind map, you answer the question, whatever has been asked to you. Okay, right? So what do you need to do in the next 2 to 3 days to get a good grip over critical reasoning? Write down the concepts that we just discussed based on every type of question that we discussed, and revise them before every practice session. And practice around 8 to 10 questions of each type of these if you can. Alright, they can be done through the mocks also. Right? That would give you a sure shot confidence boost for these kind of questions. And you saw that these kind of questions can give you a lot of scores. Okay, right? If done in the right way. Tick. So that would be all for today. Thank you very much and all the best for your exams.